What's going on, you guys? Kenny from Team VSTAR here, bringing you our debut video. Now, what I want to say is thank you guys so much for the support that you've given us on social media and throughout our careers of playing Pokemon. We are a group of competitive players looking to not only achieve our invites, but spread a positive message into the Pokemon community while we play. Now, with that in mind, I'm bringing you a deck that's super intriguing and it's just completely unorthodox. And I managed to top 2 back-to-back tournaments, 1 top 4 and 1 top 8 with this deck. Of course, 2 separate lists, but I'll be explaining that during the video. And that is Arceus Drapion VSTAR. Now, Drapion VSTAR has an attack for 250 damage, but it does minus 10 for each damage counter on it. So my initial thought was, well, 250 is good, 280 is really good. That's a key number that you want to hit in the meta right now, seeing how it one-shots Palkias, Arceus's, Giratina's, just really anything like within that number that's really popular right now. So I thought to myself, I'm like, well, Drapion is bad, but if your opponent doesn't expect it, or if you play healing cards, it could work. So I did just that. Originally, it was going to be with like Darkrai VSTAR and play a bunch of like turbo cards to be like Trekking Shoes, Dark Patches, bring back the Dark Patches after he faints, and then put them back on. And it was pretty interesting, but it wasn't this. This was just the most streamlined list I could think of. Of course, this isn't the perfect 60 for the deck. There are some changes that I want to make myself as well. But I'm going to explain it. So we have a 4-2 Arceus. Sometimes I feel like a 4-3 is really, really good because there were so many pivotal points where I missed a V-Star and I was like, well, crap. Now what am I going to do? So a 4-2 starting out was just kind of like the key number at first. Just you always want to start Arceus, so it's going to be your biggest, the thickest lineup of any Pokemon. Excuse me. In your deck. Then we have a 2-2 Drapion. I did test out 2 of these ones and one of the old Vivid Voltage one, which paralyzes and poisons by discarding 2 energy, which is pretty interesting because you could discard a double turbo and then just paralyze and poison your opponent, do like 110. But in the end, I was like, that card's really bad. I'd rather not start this thing more times than none, which during one of my losses against a very positive matchup, I ended up starting both Drapion, 2 pads, 2 dark energies, in a boss, and I presume to draw pass for 4 consecutive turns and lose. So, what can you do there? But a 2-2 Drapion VSTAR line is pretty key. 1 Crobat for digging, 1 Lumineon for the same way, for being able to just yank one of your one-of supporter cards. Even if you're in a pinch, it'll be able to help you. 1 Pumpkaboo to get out of that path to the peak, and 1 Radiant Hawlucha. I know a bunch of people are probably like, but Kenny, you don't one-shot any VMAXs, and the only one you one-shot is the Mew, and you hit it for weight. Calm down. So, Drapion VSTAR has a VSTAR ability called Hazard Star, where it paralyzes and poisons your opponent's active and puts 3 damage counters on it. So, if you have a choice belt, a Hawlucha, and use the ability, you're actually able to one-shot Kyurem VMAX and Pathlock them, which is pretty insane to think about. I actually used Hazard Star to take a game against my Zoroark opponent in top 8, and it would have won me the game in top 4 had I not put down Path first on accident. So, oops. Hazard Star is a very, very good ability if you don't end up using Starbirth, which a lot of the times I've been put in a situation where I don't need to use either one of them right away, so I end up conserving it until like mid to late game to help me anyways. So Hazard Star is a really big ability to consider when it comes to this deck. And then we have 4 Marnie, because 4 Marnie and then the Path combination is really, really good. 3 bosses, so we almost always have a dragging out option. 2 Avery, that's kind of a card that I was like 50-50 on, but it actually worked wonders, because you actually cut bench space against Palkia, you cut bench space against Lost Box, you cut bench space against Zoroark if they don't have 2 Gengars in play, and it cuts down their damage, like, exponentially, which allows you to manipulate those Hyper Potion plays to allow you to kind of heal at a relatively a steady pace while still building your hand bigger and bigger. Then we got one research, one Piers. So many times I wished maybe a second research or a Raihan would be good. I think I'd add a Raihan in here before I'd add a second research, because there were so many situations to where a Raihan potentially could have won me the game. But the one research is fine. Piers is another testing card. It definitely helps because it just grabs you an instant either Crobat or Drapion and then a double turbo. It's pretty nuts to get that turn 1 with a Lumineon. Like, the combination is there and it works wonders. 4 Hyper Potion, because against the Lost Box, the Lost Box matchup is 80-20 if you play correctly. Which, what I mean by that is if you get one Arceus V-Star and one Drapion in play, as long as they don't play Radiant Zard. So if they play Radiant Zard, it can get a little tricky, which is why you always want to... You could, if you see a Fire Energy, you just set up a second Arceus V-Star. Because it's the easiest one to consistently heal off damage. It has 10 more HP, so they can't just go Zigzagoon ping, knockout. They have to find multiple resources against you. But Drapion is still a very good attacker against that deck because you do have access to hitting for a ton of numbers really, really quickly with Drapion, and the ability is also neat to trap things like Cramorant or Sableye on a turn to where you cannot actually attack, which I did once. I trapped the Sableye, he couldn't attack, and next turn I Trinity Nova because I missed the first turn attachment. So it's pretty interesting. 4 Quick Ball, 4 Ultra Ball, just consistent. 2 Switch just to get out of the active. No, I will not play Rope. Rope was mediocre at best when I was testing out the list. 1 Ordinary Rod. Rod is busted in this list. Just being able to burn through your resources as fast as you possibly can in order to get other resources, along with playing Hyper Potion. If you Hyper Potion 2 Darks, then you can just get them instantaneously back, and then like switch into Arceus and then Trinity Nova back on. It's pretty cool. 2 Choice but 1 Big Parasol. Big Parasol is kind of like an extra insurance against Garateen and Lost Box, where you just slap it on something in the active after you healed 120 and force them to attack with Cramorant. And they have to use they can't use Requiem, they have to use Lost Impact, I believe the attack name is, which does the 280, but 2 Choice Belt end up doing 280 damage, which is the key number which you need to hit. 250 is also not bad, but 280 is what you want to hit with this deck. And then, of course, 3 copies of Patch the Peak. I played 4. 4 was okay. 3 was just right. Then we got 9 Dark, 4 DTE, and a Capture. Honestly, Capture hasn't done me anything in this deck, so maybe I'll consider swapping it out. But the fact that you could go Piers into Drapion Capture and then Capture Energy something on the board, or even just open that card turn 1 to start setting up your other things, it's still a very good card to have in the deck by the long run. Maybe a Hiding Dark Energy could be neat in here, so you could Hiding Dark a Drapion and then retreat Hyper Potion and then Trinity Nova. That could be another cool kind of thing. Could even add a powerful Colorless Energy to start hitting 230 with Arceus V, which isn't too relevant, but at least you get around the hurdle of being able to knock out Palkia, which cards to consider probably would be a Scoop Up Net. 1 to 2 Scoop Up Net wouldn't be bad, so they're able to just pull up the Hawlucha or Pumpkaboo when you actually do put them down. And if you want to play Zigzagoon in there so you can actually make math a little bit easier, because you could go like Hawlucha, Belt, Goon, Net, Goon, and knock out the QRM, so you don't have to go V-Star Path. But it's still pretty good. Even a 10th Dark Energy wouldn't be bad. I just don't think you can drop below 14. There were so many spots where I was almost missing a turn 1 attachment, and so many turns where I was just drowning energy. But it was the right amount of energy in order to hit. So with that in mind, if you guys want an explanation for how to beat certain matchups, we will be having articles and future videos out. Starting within the next week, we will be providing Silver Tempest format stuff, so be on the lookout. It won't just be me, it'll be other content creators on the team that'll be doing stuff like this. Probably is going to be very interesting to say the least from Silver Tempest, but just wanted to push out my deck that I have placed back-to-back tournaments in before the format is over and everything just may completely change, because this deck is unhinged. So thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe and like for more content. If you like to see decks like these, put it in the comment section below on what you may want to see next and what Arceus variant will do best. Arceus, do you follow the ruling by anything Arceus is broken? Comment in the comment section below. Aside from that, see you guys later.